So I was watching Bloomberg the other day, and I noticed something that I see all the time, a seasonality chart. Now, this one shows every month's return on the S&P 500 for the last 5 years, 4 to 5 years, along with its average. There's two things I want to point out. First, there are only 2 months where the market has moved higher in all of these years on this chart. July happens to be one of them. But the second thing that I want to point out is something you don't notice. Which sectors in the S&P 500 have the best patterns that start in July? And more importantly, which stocks have the best moves of all S&P 500 stocks? And are there any bearish stocks that I need to avoid or even trade to the downside, perhaps? Well, in this video, I'm going to give you 3 stocks with consistent patterns in the last 10 years. And wait for it, one of them is bearish. So let's get started. Hey, I'm Tom Gentile, America's #1 pattern trader and host of PatternsandProfits.com, where we look for patterns that repeat and profits that add up. Before we get started, let me quickly state that although I've been teaching and trading for most of my life, I'm not a registered investment advisor, and this is not investment advice. All right, so I learned that years ago, commodities like, like chocolate, like orange juice, they have seasonal patterns, much like the weather. And there are certain months of the year where there is higher demand for these commodities like chocolate and orange juice and oil and gas. But what if this pattern can be found in individual top traded stocks in the US? Well, guess what? I have found a way to do that, and I use something that I've created called the money calendar that helps me spot these particular patterns. Now, this looks like a typical calendar, but within this calendar, I have stocks that have a history of repeating themselves over and over again, both to the upside and to the downside. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the 3 stocks and the 3 sectors that I'm looking at as we enter into the month of July. I want to first start off with real estate. So starting around July 6th, I see real estate stocks in general moving higher. All right, well, which ones? Take a look at the screen you see right here. This is 10 years of bullish seasonality on real estate stocks that are happening on July the 6th. So when I take a look at this, I see that I've got D.R. Horton at the top, Lennar, Toll Brothers, and it just keeps going on and on. Now, the way I have these ranked is I have them ranked by which ones have the best seasonality. I'm going to get into those in just a moment. But D.R. Horton is up there at the top. It's a 39-day trade that is starting July 6th that has, for 9 of the last 10 years, moved higher. And its average return during those last 10 years, both the winners and the loser, which was in 2023, go up about 16% during this time. Now, if I look a little bit closer into D.R. Horton, I'm going to see that right now the stock has been trading between around $130 to on the upside about $170 a share. I can see last year it had a really nice move this time last year, starting around July 6th and moving in through to the end of August. And of course, that's what we're expecting as this goes through. But the other thing that's interesting is it's hitting a lot of resistance right up at this level it just pulled back from, which is around $170 a share. A couple things I like to look at when I'm looking at seasonality. I like to look at how long the particular trade is going to be on, how long that pattern's going to be. That also gives me an end date. So, for me, that's good because I'm kind of that 30 to 60 day trader. The other thing that I can look at is as an option trader, I can look at that end date and I can see whether that fits something like an option in place of buying the stocks. That's the first thing I'll look at. Another thing I'll look at is the accuracy column. Now, the accuracy column is based on history. And although history has no guarantee of repeating itself, I like to follow things that do the same thing over and over again. And with history, I like to look for a minimum of a stock having a repeatable pattern in at least 9 of the last 10 years. And then another thing I look at is average profit. All right, next up is consumer stocks. And I see this happening around mid-July. So starting July 15th, we're seeing a bit of consumer stocks that are also moving higher on the spectrum. So as I look at this, 10 years of bullish seasonality is showing me that consumer stocks like Lowe's, Home Depot, and TJ Maxx all have bullish patterns that are starting mid-July and really running through the beginning to the middle of September, right? All of these are 41, 42-day trades. They all have patterns that repeated in 9 of the last 10 years. And here's another thing that's interesting. The last time these particular stocks had a losing year was back in 2016. You have to go back that far to see the last time that these patterns did not move higher starting in mid-July. That was a long time ago, right? Of the three, I really like Lowe's Home Improvements the best. And the reason why is I'm going to talk about it here in just a moment. But take a look at the stock. So if we're looking at Lowe's Home Improvement, I'm going to blow the stock up here for you real quick. You can see support that is down there near the $200 to $210 area. We've seen rising resistance that's very close and actually above 280. But for this year, we've actually seen lower highs and lower lows on the screen. Now, we've bounced off of that since June. Is that bounce going to be something that is going to take us into July and August? Well, if seasonality has anything to do with it, that answer could be yes. So one of the things that I like to look at out of all the data, what I'm looking for any type of trade, is something I call power meter. Power meter is just simply this. We look at the last 10 years of data and we want to see profits. We want to see those patterns increasing over time as we get closer to today. Something that had a great pattern 10 years ago that has fizzled out now is not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for trades where pattern gets better and better and better over time. Now, as we enter the final part of July, the end of the month, I'm finding a very interesting pattern that's happening in the consumer staples market, but it's not what you think. Yes, it starts on July 31st, but this is a bearish pattern. Let me blow this up and show you what I'm talking about. So take a look at these three stocks in consumer staples. You got Philip Morris, KMB, and Modelo's down there at the bottom. All right. All of them have that area I'm looking for, that 30 to 60-day trading opportunity. All right. They all have repeatable patterns. In fact, in 9 of the last 10 years, the patterns on these three stocks have repeated themselves. They have patterns that take themselves from July 31st into October. But see all the red on the screen? These are patterns in stocks that actually move lower, not higher. One of these is Philip Morris, which has a July 31st bearish pattern starting. Did extremely well last year if you were looking at it to the downside. So once again, my summer patterns look like this. D.R. Horton is a bullish pattern that starts on July 6th. Lowe's Home Improvements is a bullish pattern starting on July 15th. And Philip Morris is a bearish pattern that starts on July 31st. If you found this information helpful, please consider liking the video, as it does help the channel immensely. Also, consider subscribing, and if you hit that notification bell, you'll get these videos the moment they are published. Thanks again. Hey, I'd like to hear your comments on these three stocks as well, and I'll see you again on the next one.